What's up guys, Skinner here, and I'm going to be going over how to scale your Corrupting Cry damage from a budget of nothing at League Start all the way up to the end game. First, we're going to briefly talk about what will and will not scale Corrupting Cry. And to note, Corrupting Cry does not hit. It is only a dot, and the Corrupted Blood is not a bleed. Here are the types of scaling, and I'll go into detail about more for each of these categories after listing what the categories are. 1. Cooldown reduction. This is just quality of life and clear speed. Gem levels. This is going to increase the base damage of your Corrupting Cry. That is then going to get multiplied by everything else. Your gem links are going to give you % more damage per gem link, but there's only a 5 link of actually good damage links. We'll discuss this later. Total % increased damage. This is physical damage, area damage, global increased damage over time, and minion damage if you use spiritual aid, but notably not spell damage. Though spell damage does increase your reap for your single target, it will not increase your Corrupting Cry. The next big multiplier is damage over time multiplier, both a generic dot multi and %fizz dot multi. Then, if you socket it in your gloves, you can use the Essence of Delirium for 30% more damage over time. I'll detail this craft later. It's a good League Start option. The next multiplier is enemies take % increased damage. This is War Banner. Shock, taunted enemies via natural authority in the Warcry wheel over on the bottom left side of the tree. Flesh and Stone plus Maim, etc. All these add into one multiplier. Then there's Pride, which the aura gives enemies take % more physical damage multiplier, so it is a separate multiplier from the previous one. And then there's things like Frenzy Charges for % more damage later on in optimizing. Alright, so now that we know what can scale it, let's go into detail for each of these damage scalers in order, starting with what is the cheapest and fastest way to scale them. In other words, the thing I list first in each category are what you should prioritize first at League Start. Then get more within those categories later. Alright, getting a bit of each multiplier is the fastest way to scale your damage quickly and cheaply rather than focusing on just one of these multipliers. Alright, cooldown reduction. Get the elephant in the room out of the way. People overemphasize Warcry, CDR, and the tattoos for it. This will not increase your damage. Just how much faster you can run through a map while killing everything on accident. It will slightly ramp your single target faster on bosses, but it's irrelevant. I will League Start this next league assuming no tattoos. It works fine without them. Alright, now here's the numbers. General's Cry has a base cooldown time of 4 seconds. Alright. This skill is the shortest of all the Warcry cooldowns. You will never use any other one. You will get 114% increased Warcry CDR from the tree. That'll actually lower that from 4 seconds down to 1.87 seconds cooldown from just the tree. Okay. Then there's a 1C item. It's actually cheaper than 1C. But it's 1C on day 1. So you can buy this with your first Chaos and equip this at level 49 in the campaign on day 1, because it's a very common drop. This gives 50% increased Warcry CDR. I have a leveling guide, and I do reference using this. It's a good thing to do. Again, so it brings you down with just the tree and this 1C item to 1.51 second cooldown time, which is great. The other thing that is next is that a 20% quality General's Cry is going to give you 20% CDR, which is good. But again, never level the gem. It just increases the cost. Alright. Then there are contributions from your gear. Alright. The first of these is that there's a Eater or Ichor boot implicit. The lowest tier gives 17% General's Cry cooldown recovery rate. The highest tier ups up to 32%, which is super late game. You need Orb of Conflict for it, etc. Then there's a Lab Helm enchant for up to 30% General Scry CDR. And then, of course, you can have it on a belt with generic CDR. You can have up to 20% with a Shaper or Crusader belt, or 16% with a Veiled belt. I am not using either of the Helm or those belts or a high tier boot implicit because I have tattoos this league, and it's just simply easier to get some CDR that way. So, speaking of the contribution from tattoos, they'll give you 10% each. I have 16. This is way overkill. The diminishing returns on these is nuts. The first 5 feels nice. It's a noticeable improvement. At 10, it's a little bit better. At 16, there's almost no difference from having 10. I just wanted to have funny number be less than 1. Okay? I wanted my cooldown to be less than 1 second. You're really not going to notice that each additional tattoo after them is just really not doing much at all. And again, you don't need these tattoos. I highly recommend that you get a few if you can, and then get things that are giving you, percent life, max res, like defensive things, shock immunity, crit reduction, all that other stuff that is going to make your build more rounded. Alright, enough of that. We're moving on. We're talking about gem levels. So, one thing you're going to notice about Corrupting Cry is that it's not an active skill gem. So the main ways of scaling your gem levels that we normally do, we can't do with Corrupting Cry because it's a support gem. You have an amulet with plus all skill gems, plus 1 fizz, etc. It won't apply to this. The wand, the shield won't apply to this. It needs to be plus 2 socketed gems or socketed support gems. This is why we often see me and many other people recommending a Cane of Coolmac. A plus 3 to level socketed support gems Cane of Coolmac is a very good option. And that one mod alone is extremely cheap. The primary second option is Fizz.multi. So you can have 3 things on a Cane of Coolmac. The third best option is percent minion damage with Spiritual Aid. And then the next one would be spell damage for Reap. Wouldn't benefit your Corrupting Cry, but your Reap would be better. And then you could have like damage per frenzy or power charge or something like that, which is what I have here. The only 2 mods that actually matter there are the plus 3 socketed and Fizz.multi. I paid a divine, and this is a perfect roll. You can pay less for much cheaper ones, but at the very beginning of League Start, that first week, you might not be able to get a Cane of Coolmac. So, what are you supposed to do? Well, you probably still have your apple, right? Well, the first thing that you can be doing as you're entering maps is you can have a pair of gloves and you craft plus 1 socketed AoE gems on it. This is going to carry you quite a bit early. It's just going to give you that another gem level. It's going to do some damage for you. And then what you're going to do, the next step there, is you're going to want to get an Essence of Delirium. I mentioned this earlier as one of the things that can scale it. And you're just going to hit a pair of Armor ES gloves. Alright? And you don't even care what rolls on it. This is now going to be a 5-link. And in fact, it's better than a 5-link, because that 30% more damage over time is actually going to be more than what efficacy does, which is what you would use as your 5th link, right? Which I'll go into details better. And then, of course, if there's an open prefix, you come over here, AoE, and ta-da. You have your pseudo 5-link, but it's like a 5-link plus. You're getting plus to your level, and it's better than the normal 5-link. Right? You're just going to slap that on, and it's going to carry you for your Corrupting Cry damage into red maps. All right. So what if you want to scale your gloves further, right? So this is the cheap option. This is the intro option. Okay. Well, you're going to buy a good fractured base. You're going to get either T1 Chaos Res or T1 Spell Suppression, and then you're going to hit it with multiple Essences of Delirium. All right. And you're going to be fishing for another good suffix, right? So you're going to have one suffix guaranteed. Second suffix guaranteed is going to be that socketed more damage over time, right? And you're looking for just another third good suffix. So might as well just throw in here. Accuracy doesn't do anything for us. Strength is no good. Strength is no good. Lightning res. Right. You would spend some more, right? You'd look for like a T2 of a good resist. You would craft suffixes cannot be changed, and then you would hit it with a Veiled Chaos, block mana, and then ta-da! You can have a +2, because the Veiled Chaos mod will unveil +2 with a very high likelihood glove that is with great suffixes and is better than a 5-link. And then you just finish by crafting life. It is really good and is comparable in some cases to a Caniculamak, right? So this is your other option. Now the Giga option is you make a pair of these and you use it. Then you make another pair of these and you double corrupt them. And you hope for the double corrupt that sits +2 to the socketed skill gems of AoE, Warcry, or Duration. And then you could have +2 from the Unveil and an additional +4. You can have a +6 5-link glove. It is extremely strong, but it is a very late game. I'm spending money at gambling to optimize my gear. Okay. So now that we have that out of the way, there is one other giga expensive option, which is the Forbidden Shaco. You can have a 30 to level 35 corrupting cry. If you're a mage blood budget person. Okay, so now we have that out of the way. Let's talk about your 6-link and your links in general. Okay. At first, what you're going to be wanting to equip is just a basic, corrupted 6-link with the colors that you're going to use for Vol Reap that has no life mod. I had gotten this one for 20C at the league start, and it just had high armor and some other stuff that didn't really matter. Okay. And the idea there is I just needed a 6-link. No life lets you use the % increased maximum life mastery. Okay. This is gonna last you for a long time. Alright? It's gonna get you there. Alright? And then the links that you're gonna use for Vol Reap, right, is going to be Vol Reap, Swift Affliction, Brutality, Control Destruction, Cruelty, and Efficacy. And later you can upgrade this to Awakened Swift Affliction. Corrupted ones for hoping 2120s or something. You get Awakened Brutality, Awakened Controlled Destruction, right? But you're gonna start off with just getting your 6-link online for your single target. You're going to then later dump that piece of shit rare, right? When you can afford a good 6th-link 4th vow, alright? When you have max chaos res and you're using a Glorious Vanity Zabakwa for Divine Flesh, alright? So then half of your damage all goes to chaos, and then armor applies to chaos, okay? You're just using anything that just lets you farm to get there, alright? That's why what I did, I recommend you do, just get that armor, get that going for your 6-link. I didn't get any of my Awakened gems and anything at all after I got my 6th link 4th vow, right? Okay, so for the Corrupting Cry links. If you are doing the 4 link in the gloves, it is General's Cry, Corrupting Cry, Swift Affliction, Brutality. Okay? If you have blue socket pressure, you could drop Brutality for efficacy. So, if you have a Cane of Cooldown, right, you can actually do the 5 link. You can have efficacy in there, right? And for your 6th link, there's really, you could use Life Tap, but it actually is kind of bad. It makes it really, really, really expensive. You actually end up spending more life than you recoup, because you will gain 15% of your life every time you War Cry. So even with a 6 link, right, with a increased area of effect for your 6th link, just makes it hit the entire screen. Feels really good. You still gain life every time you War Cry, right? So that's the links. Pretty simple. And as for the rest of the multipliers are concerned, just make sure you don't neglect any of them. Alright. War Banner becomes free thanks to Champion. Natural Authority down here is gonna stack with it. Pride is its own multiplier. You know, you're not gonna be able to get Pride right away until you get a cheap, simple 3 passive Pride or Determination or Malevolence small cluster jewel, and you're just going to slot that in. As soon as you slot that in, you will be able to run 5 auras: Determination, Pride, Malevolence, War Banner, and Herald of Purity. Okay. You're going to just not have Pride, basically. Or you're going to be able to run Pride but not Herald of Purity, depending on whether your mana, depending on if you decide to grab this Mana Mastery for 12%, depending if you want to use a Replica Dragon Fang's Flight, so on and so forth. Okay. If you have a Replica Dragon Fang's Fight, you can, for +2 to Reap, you can drop these 2 nodes to just have Aura effect. But you still want this. Okay. Alright. Alright. The other thing I highly recommend is you want to get as much in the Fizz dot multi as much as you can. People tend to lack here a lot, especially if you don't have a Cane with Fizz dot multi. This multiplier is going to be your smallest multiplier and the easiest one to increase. You can put it on your gloves, right? It is an Exarch on the gloves. And you can get a whole bunch of jewels that have 8% Fizz dot multi, 7% increased max life. Every single jewel socket on your tree should first get filled with these. Okay, they're actually really cheap to get them. And then later, end game, you can go through and replace all these jewel sockets with fancy stuff like Watcher's Eyes, your Forbidden Flesh and Flames, your Unnatural Instincts, your Glorious Vanities, your Cluster Jewels, etc. Okay? But just get those in first. They're very cheap. They're going to go a long way. You can get those before you even get your 4th vow, right? They're going to give you a lot of bang for your buck early. I do recommend just getting any cheap Glorious Vanity as soon as your Chaos res capped and have a decent amount of armor. Even if, right, you don't have the 4th vow, you're still going to get a good survivability boost just by being able to split stuff up, right? So, and prioritize your Fizz conversion, your damage swap stuff, right? All right. So I hope this kind of explains a lot of the basic scaling of everything. It's not the simplest thing, but it's also not very complicated, right? You want to just get lots of life, lots of resistances. It's going to carry your damage through the thing. I did a whole League Start leveling guide video where I also play through with no tattoos, nothing. I buy one apple with a chaos that drops for me when I'm level 50. I go through with my 4 links, just stuff I found. I was res capped when I went into maps, did a map. I have all that on video. Go look at that of how you can get the character to maps. While trading, because I didn't have D&D on, I did it in 6.5 hours, did a campaign and into maps. Okay. You could do it faster. You can do it slower. Doesn't matter. This is a very cruisy build. I also have the link and the POB for my current, level 99 build. That is absolutely crushing the end game and is super relaxing to play when I get off work. So, peace out. Oh, and I should note, I will be answering all questions that you guys do leave below. If you have anything that you want to know, I will answer it for you.